Welcome back, everybody, to TARTLEcast. I'm a big fan of algae. Always have been. I like eating algae.
Mm-hmm.
There's a specific brand I like. You've tried it before. It's called Raw Living Spirulina.
Oh, yeah. That
It's
stuff is
specific
amazing.
type of blue-green algae. It has all your vitamins, nutrients, trace minerals, all that good stuff. And it's like 70% protein by weight.
Yeah, it is crazy. And then you also, it comes in, it's so cool how it comes in like this frozen thing. It's not frozen, but refrigerated, and it has to come in like a day or two. And it's in a cave in Florida that they pull it out of.
Deep freshwater aquifer.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's like dark green.
It's it's a shame that human beings right now don't have a taste for it. It otherwise has no flavor.
Right.
But the benefits of algae are just so remarkable for human health, but also health of the planet.
Yes.
And I think we can transition here. I don't want to get into the human health aspect, but I do want to talk about some of the research that's going on, because the data is just phenomenal. Around kelp growth.
Yeah, and we're going to specifically talk about kelp for biofuels. I love this is from sciencealert.com. I love their beginning line. Listen to this. In the struggle to slow the runaway freight train of humanity's destructive impact on the earth. Isn't that amazing? It's true.
It is.
We're on a fucking runaway freight train.
We are not, and we're blind too. We're
Yes.
like, I don't care. This thing weighs how many metric tons, and we're going to keep on steamrolling.
Yeah, and then they go into, science's heroes, of course. Scientists are increasingly looking at the role our oceans can play.
Yeah.
I mean, how much water do we have compared to land?
70% water.
Yeah, so if you could farm
in the ocean rather than on your land?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, so here, we'll talk about the gist of this, right? So in the United States, 70% of our farmland goes to 70% of the land goes to farming, right? And then of that, I think it was around like 40% of that actually only goes to humans. The majority of that it's probably something less than that. Doesn't matter. We have most of our farmland, and our stuff goes to cattle feed.
Yes.
Livestock feed. Cows, pigs, chickens don't really care whether it's corn or something else, but we're using all this beautiful arable land, which means land that can be used to like rotate crops, grow things, right? We're using that to feed cattle. That's really what's going on here. It's not actually going to feed people. We talk about food shortages. Half of it is the fact it's a logistics issue. We don't get food to where it needs to go. And the other fact is we're growing most of our stuff for cattle. And then we have all this water waste, freshwater waste on this land.
I wonder if we could, because we're not going to solve the whole idea of people eating steaks. I wonder if we could feed them. I wonder if we could feed them a seaweed
burger.
Yeah, like no, not for. I'm not talking about the consumer. I'm talking about the cow itself.
That's what I'm
Would
saying.
they eat kelp?
They eat kelp. This is why it's a biofuel. This is what I'm getting into. So the idea here is that if
I'm always jumping ahead. Sorry.
I know, it's okay. I'm trying to bring people there. If a majority of our farmland goes towards animals and not towards actually feeding human beings, so we use all this fresh water and all this wonderful land, and we have a growing population to feed cattle, right, or other livestock, that's not sustainable. It's actually crippling us. So how do we move farming for those animals into the ocean? That's the real question. How do we create a biofuel that works rather than just growing corn? And corn really lacks a lot of nutrient value, right? It's a fiber for the cow. But if we start growing things that are so rich in everything that is required for life,
yes,
all life,
right?
Now you're doing something really smart. And if you can grow that efficiently with absolutely no input. See, you know what kelp requires? Or algae. It requires a couple of, some trace minerals in the ocean. It requires an abundant amount of carbon dioxide, which we have, and sunlight, which we also have. So these things that are just infinitely abundant all over the earth, that's what causes this stuff to grow at super speeds. Oh, and by the way, it detoxifies the ocean. Oh, by the way, there's an oxygen exchange that happens. So you're helping your ozone, right? The rest of the atmosphere. You're cleaning the pollutants out of the water, right? Like methyl mercury, stuff like that. And we're creating cattle feed, and we're not abusing the land we have here in, the United States or all these other countries. to feed livestock.
Well, it's also, I mean, kelp has even more usage than just solving that. And so the University of Southern California, they discovered a kelp elevator technique. And so this produces ample and makes a high yield biofuel to help wean us off of fossil fuels. That's what they're looking at. You know, so not only can we help, you know, with the cattle situation like you're talking about, reclaim, you know, most of our land back and use it for, you know, I guess building homes.
Doing something else
Coal
that's important.
plants.
Yeah, more coal plants.
But many land-based biofuels capable of powering cars, planes, ships, and trucks are currently sourced from mass-produced farm crops like corn, soybeans, and switchgrass.
That's correct.
So there are several problems with these options, they say, including using up limited food-providing land space, which you talked about.
I talked about that.
Guzzling massive amounts of water.
I talked about that also.
Pollution from pesticides and fertilizers,
Oh,
which are killing the bees.
Yeah, that's right.
And encroaching on rare biodiverse habitats.
Oh, interesting.
So not only does relying on giant marine algae like seaweed avoid these problems, but the biology of seaweed is also more suited for use as a biofuel. So they get into Microcystis farifera, whatever, giant kelp.
Yeah.
And it can grow at an impressive rate of up to 14 inches a day.
That blows bamboo out of the water.
Yeah.
If you thought bamboo grows quick, you should check the kelp out. Here's the cool part. It grows in warm, temperate, and ice freaking cold water.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of my favorite algae I like actually comes from north of Japan, around Korea in the cold waters, and also northern Siberia. It's like a red algae, red-brown algae. And it's phenomenal for you. Okay? Japonica luminara, something like that. I forget what the scientific name is.
I remember you telling me about it.
That's fantastic. And then I like my freshwater stuff, my blue-green algae that comes from this aquifer down in Florida. But the thing is, it grows. It's just so crazy how quick it grows. It's such a rich source. It's all around in the system,
Right.
Jason. It's beneficial. The data is showing this. So if we need to pay attention to the data that University of Southern California is also showing us, this is an avenue we need to look at.
Well, you know, the cool part is they constantly form new fronds, they call it, and then allowing the harvesting of the mature fronds, which can reach 98 feet in length and would otherwise just deteriorate and die without impacting the kelp's growth. So, you know, what they're saying is they can sit there and make these elevators, which is just long tubes that they tie them onto.
In the water.
And then they start going out 98 feet plus, and then they're growing 14 inches a day. So think about how fast this is going, and then you have all these elevators of that doing that.
That volume, that surface area of food is incredible. Of biofuel is phenomenal.
Yeah. So,
And you're not hurting anything. You're also helping other marine life.
well, you know, they were talking about in the article too, one of the things that is ocean acidification,
Yes.
and then how it elevates the pH levels. 'Cause
That's
we're
correct.
having an issue with this, the ocean being acidic.
Same thing happens in your body, right? Well, the ocean's acidic because all the chemicals and fertilizers we dump in it that go into the freshwater streams through the estuaries and dump into the ocean itself. That right there is screwing things up. It's killing that biodiversity. But like I said, like methyl mercury, all that other stuff that you find in like your tuna and other fish, if you eat
Right.
a lot of fish, that gets absorbed and broken down in an organic matter. Think about that. It's fixing the ocean, fixing your atmosphere, fixing your health, and fixing your land. And it requires zero energy from you. All you got to do is put some lines across in the water and let this stuff grow.
Yeah, and they were making it out of like plastic and aluminum, stuff like that. And they said the good news is the farm system can be assembled from off-the-shelf products without new technology.
You don't need a huge investment into the infrastructure. It's minimal for the output that you receive.
Yeah, and then the team urged further investigation in this area as much as remains to work out before we can see if the idea really is good as it sounds, including the costs and energy requirements involved in growing, transporting, and converting the kelp biomass into liquid fuels.
Yeah, you can convert it into a liquid fuel. I'm just really interested about, feeding people, fixing the ocean, and feeding animals.
Yeah, there's a cool guy named Scott Lindell.
Here we go,
He's
Scott.
from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute.
I used to do work down at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute in Falmouth, Massachusetts.
Yeah, and he's a biologist, and he's working on selectively breeding hardier, and larger kelp species that would even be more suitable to use as a biofuel.
Yeah, so the larger and hardier means it has a bigger surface area, and you can actually squeeze more of the fuel out of it, right? So, like we extract the earth. We have these, we do fracking.
Right.
You have to create these pockets and then drive the stuff out. Well, just think about it. You have a membrane holding a fuel. The bigger it is, And the more it can hold, the more it can squeeze out of it.
Yes.
Oh, and it's also more beneficial to everything else.
But and Lyndall said the same thing you do, and maybe we can close on this, but I want people to understand, he said this, it will be hard to find a better resource for biofuels than farm seaweeds that require, I want people to get this, no arable land, no fresh water, and no fossil fuel derived fertilizer.
Wow.
That sounds like a solution to me.
That's a legitimate solution.
Why wouldn't we dump the money instead of making more of these?
I do like that, though.
I know, yeah. Dump the money into
a legitimate substitute.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know, Jason. Please continue asking me obvious questions.
So let me ask you this before we close out. TARTLE.co.
I'm going to do a research packet on TARTLE.
Yeah, and
with Kelp.
And we're looking at climate stability as our big 7.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at the big 7 and then TARTLE being involved in projects like this, let's use Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute for an example. How would someone, if they're like, I love this idea of kelp, how could they get involved through TARTLE to help Woods Hole?
So we would list Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute on TARTLE as a charitable organization which you could donate your earnings towards. So if you love the research that's coming out of this, these people that are trying to champion the kelp effort,
right?
Woohoo! Donate some of your earnings towards it. It's that simple, and I don't care where you are in the world.
So how do I get my earnings?
You get your earnings through sharing data.
Oh, wow.
It's so easy.
And am I doing that already with companies?
No, you're not even sharing it with them. They're just taking it from you. There's no sharing.
No.
Sharing is under the concept that you actually hand it over.
Yeah. We're sharing, TARTLE sharing, but
like
we share fairly.
I willingly give it over, right?
And so is it easy to sign up?
It's so easy.
What happens?
If it was difficult, Jason, we wouldn't be in 196 countries, right? It's simple. You go to tartle.co and you'll see a nice button on there that says get started. It's going to bring you through this wonderful starting workflow. And you're going to take these steps and we're going to educate you every single step of the way and why it's being done. And before you know it, you're in and you're starting to bank your data in the TARTLE marketplace.
So somebody like Woods Hole, we're just using them example, are the University of Southern California, and they want to be a buyer of data.
Yeah.
Is that hard to do?
Same exact simple process. You just go to sign up as a buyer. Same get started process.
And we encourage you, if you're, it will help us out tremendously. If you love listening to this podcast, you don't have to make a commitment to do anything, but sign up. We would love just for you to sign up, and then you'll start getting, our emails, and you'll start seeing
awareness,
kind of, and we have early adopters for sellers and buyers of data, and we'd love for you to sign up. And so you can go to tartle.co.
Thank you.